Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. As we get seated here, I'll give a few brief comments. As you know, we have this competition going on for next generation, and make sure you get ready to vote for your favorite next generation company. And so we've got five very exciting companies being represented today, and we're going to turn it over to each one of them for a few minutes to give some comments. But so reflecting on yesterday, so we had 5 similar companies up here. It was very interesting, and I think the learning that at least that I took from it was that, okay, it's all about cloud. Well, it's not really about cloud. What cloud is doing is enabling new capabilities, and we talked about this yesterday for a few minutes, but with this group, you're going to see a similar thing, that the cloud is merely an enabler for doing things that maybe we hadn't done before. And you can see with this group, you're going to see some additional trends and ideas, from application to like the retail industry, which is very traditional, but it's a new way to use mobile and data to enable and to make retailers more effective. You're going to hear about social media. You're going to hear about some other things. So it's really, really cool. So real briefly, I'm going to go through in order of the presentation. So we have Ray Solnick from Fnomics Systems. We have, second, we'll have Matt Talbot, who's the CEO from GoSpa Check. Okay? And we have Tony Nethercutt from PlaceIQ, which is a really cool, so location being one of the new trends, using GPS, and you hear this from some of the vendors out there. So PlaceIQ is a really cool one, not to sway your votes or anything like that. We have Shankar Krishnamoorthy from Aster Software, and he's got this really cool .NET infrastructure play in the cloud. And then, of course, Ray Fuller from Volumetrics. Okay?
Ryan.
So,
Ryan.
Oh, excuse me, Ryan.
That's right.
Ryan, my bad. Thanks. So we're going to start off with Ray Solnick, who is the president of Fnomics Systems. So Ray, take it away.
Are we putting
just stand up, just do your thing right there. We don't have to run around town.
Thanks for hosting us today. Excited to be here. And while we're all great next-gen companies, I hope the audience will vote for Fnomic. We'll see maybe a little food fight and talk about where the next generation is going. Fnomics Systems is bringing to market the next generation of a software technology called Application Performance Management. APM is about a $2.5 billion industry in the software sector. And what we're doing differently, and what's next generation about what we're doing, is applying analytics into this field of running the cloud. So for many of us who are in the engine room of the big ship of the cloud, there's a lot of people who are involved in doing this work and making sure that all of our applications and our end users' experiences are good and positive. It takes a lot of work. If we can go to the next slide, then I'll tell you a little bit more about what we're doing.
Is there a clicker somewhere?
Is there a clicker?
There we go. All right, there you go.
Oh, thanks, Paul.
There you go.
Okay, which pretty clear.
Yeah, the green button.
The big green button.
Yeah.
So, if you think about what Google did for search, it's kind of funny in a lot of ways. We all know Google as the search company, but at the time, there were 20 or 30 search companies. There was Lycos and AltaVista and Hotbot and Excite and a number of others. And Google and Larry Page with PageRank introduced a different algorithm, a different way to process this massive volume of data out on the web. In fact, in some ways, Google is really the first contemporary big data company. And what we're doing is processing with some new algorithms all the massive volumes of metrics that are involved in running the infrastructure that powers the internet today. And so we think, and companies like Gartner, who've just defined this new category of IT operations analytics, that this will be the next generation, the next one of the next big pushes for IT operations. And of course, a lot of people are talking about big data and the ways to apply big data. Let me give you an example of some of the outcomes for applying analytics. This is an example. It's a little bit of an eye chart here, but it gives you a high-level example of a infrastructure where through the pattern matching technologies that we have, we identified a deviation relatively early on. That's that first little red arrow, where at a very low level of CPU utilization, there was a hiccup. And the CPU supporting an internet bank was operating at a little bit higher rate than it should, and we found that deep in the haystack. We gave our clients a heads up, and that's what that red dot is. And 6 hours later, unfortunately in this case for our client, it was the first time they used this new tool, their internet banking went down. And it went down because of the root cause that we identified early on. So as our stacks and as our infrastructure gets more complex and more difficult to understand, we can identify these very granular aberrations, tee them up, and then give our clients a heads up to get in front of those issues and prevent this type of outcome. This company now, after having this very visceral emotional experience and having an outage because of it, is a very good customer and uses our technology religiously. The next scenario is another example. This one also is another bank. It's a different one. And what they wanted to do was provide a premium online experience for their premium clients. And our technology measures the response rate of all of the users in their premium online banking service. And then when it goes over a certain business rule, in this case, a 2-second transaction time for 2 minutes consecutively, we automate a way to make the application move faster. And so these analytics and the automation, the machine learning, all pulled together is enabling this next generation, I don't know if we'll call it Web 3.0 or Cloud 2.0, whatever it is, to operate and to deliver business results that can retain customers, like the previous speaker was talking about, and to grow your business in really compelling new ways. Sort of like today, as you type a search request in Google, it predicts what you're looking for and gets you to that answer really fast. That's what we're doing for the IT operation industry.
Awesome. Is it a SaaS solution? I presume it's a cloud-based SaaS solution.
Yeah, we're here at All About the Cloud because we have a SaaS offering. We also make it available on-premise for our large banking clients. And today, it's also offered as a managed service where we'll run it on behalf of our CIOs who don't want to learn the latest, greatest new tool and advanced technologies, but do want to take advantage of it. So they'll have our experts run the technology for them and then plug into their operating team.
Yeah, so this would be kind of like HP OpenView, only with a customer orientation that's really particularly aligned towards the internet and the cloud. Is that
so Paul,
one way to look at it?
That's a great point. So today, the network monitoring and the infrastructure monitoring of devices is well known. It's very mature.
Yeah, that's very mature.
We all take it for granted. And the application layer does not have that in place. So what we're doing is we're taking what companies like HP with OpenView or IBM with Tivoli have done for devices and the deeper layer of infrastructure, and we're binding it with the real user experience and the application layer. So that's right.
For IT. So the CIO, and that would be the primary buyer and user is like the IT department and CIOs versus, like the marketing, CMO or whatever would have view to how the website is performing, and then they call the CIO and complain, where this gives the CIO visibility and predictive capabilities to know.
We're the next generation of IBM Tivoli, HP OpenView, and tools like that.
Nice. That's very exciting. Very exciting. All right, good. I think we went over the 2 minutes, but that was because I asked you some questions. That's okay.
All right, sorry.
You get a pass for that. So Matt Talbot, CEO of GoSpa Check. There you go.
Hi, everyone. Like Paul said, I'm Matt Talbot. I'm the co-founder and CEO of GoSpa Check. I'm going to do my best to keep this brief and then get onto the conversation, because hopefully that'll be the most interesting part of the panel. So we are technology for retailers. We help them improve all their paper-based reporting and do it through a real-time smartphone app and a web reporting dashboard. A little bit about the company. We were founded in May 2011 and launched actually our first version of the product just about 6 months ago. We've raised some angel funding and have some pretty notable investors that have helped us along the way get some access to some early customers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the problem we see today and how I think mobile and cloud technology is really creating an interesting opportunity to go into a space that typically hasn't been as affected by technology. And really, anyone that's worked in retail can probably, I'm probably giving them some traumatic memories seeing all these spreadsheets and clipboards, which is really how data collection is done by people in the field at retail today. So if you think whether it's a store open or closed checklist, whether it's a quality check, whether it's even a verification of a marketing program, almost all this data collection today is happening through a clipboard. And if it's not through a clipboard, it's probably through a laptop and an Excel spreadsheet. And that's all fine and well, but this creates a huge data problem for our customers, which are these retailers or consumer product manufacturers. And the reason why is that it's really hard to analyze a large stack of spreadsheets, right? It's really hard to analyze a form that's filled out on a clipboard. So what we do is create a simple solution where field reps can actually use our smartphone app to conduct all their data collection, and then that data is, of course, aggregated back in real time for management to view. Some of the special parts of this product are really, there's probably two things that really differentiate it. One is the ability for these field reps to use photos. So if you think about having photo evidence for whatever you're doing along the way, that's really a game changer for these companies. They can now actually see their products on the shelves, they can see safety issues as they're being reported in the field, and they can see what their competitors are doing. Further, by leveraging geofencing, we can ensure that the reps are actually conducting the store visits that they're supposed to. In the past, when a rep is just out there with a pad of paper and a pen, it's hard to guarantee that he's even going and visiting the stores. So we also obviously enable a little bit of people management along the way. So that's a high-level overview. That's pretty much all I got.
Awesome, that's great. So we were talking before we got up here. You can envision this could be applied in a lot of different ways with auditing, with verification, with just sort of documentation of your work, right? So I would think that this is a great opportunity. Have you thought about moving into other areas? You probably thought of that, but
yeah, we see a lot of a lot of areas are affected by this kind of manual data collection.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Whether it's a real estate inspection or a safety inspection at a warehouse, there's a number of different places where you're seeing a lot of paper-based reporting happening.
Yeah, so there's like a combination of cloud and mobility, applied to a really antiquated, sort of set of processes within big businesses. Do you sell to the retailers or to like the Nestle's, the food manufacturers, or just anybody?
We have three main channels that we sell to today. So CPGs are big for us, as well as actual retailers themselves. So ensuring that their regular store opening, closed checklists are happening. And then the third category that we kind of isolate is quick service restaurants. So restaurants that are kind of fast food like with 50 or more locations.
Yeah. I would think in the trade promotions area with like the Nestle's, it would be a huge market for you. Really cool.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That's great idea. Okay, Tony Nethercutt, who's Chief Revenue Officer for PlaceIQ, another really awesome idea all around in location.
Thank you. Does this turn on? We good? So I'll go ahead and forward. Thanks. We are PlaceIQ, and we are at our heart an audience company. We use location to create those audiences and other third-party data sets. So our value proposition is that in mobile, which is our first application of our IP, we can take content. If someone is going to a website and viewing content on CNET or ESPN, and rather than looking at audiences that are sports or looking at audiences that happen to be interested in tech, we say we'd rather look at that and say, is that user at home, and what do we know about when they're at home in their particular house or residential area that they live in? Are they at work, and are they an IT worker versus someone working in the suburbs at maybe a mall? Are they eating? Are they shopping? If so, where are they shopping? What type of shopping environment are they in? And are they playing, recreating, and doing something else? So our core product is just standard audience segments, of which we have about 100, and allow various advertisers to leverage our technology in new ways. A little bit more detailed version of the product is where we are actually taking satellite map images of retail locations in the real world and fitting them into our 100 by 100 meter construct. We're using the USGS survey that is overlaid on the entire U.S. We're one of the only people out there in the location space that is getting that granular, and then hoping to take that granular data and roll it up to national audiences. So not just granular for the sake of serving an ad to one person in front of a Starbucks. We want to look at all the Walmarts out there, all the Safeway stores, all the CVS drugstores, and in addition to that tile construct that I mentioned, we're actually having a team of people outline in these three cases, these three stores, their parking lots, so that we can get much more granular than the standard way of doing location today, or typical, which is geofencing, which we think is not all that accurate. So then again, I mentioned the construct that we lay these tiles over, and we create a list of all the Walmarts, Safeways, CVS, and a whole bunch of other different verticals, and say these tiles contain these types of stores and allow targeting that way. We then look at the household data that I mentioned earlier. We use Polk and other data sets, including census, and aggregate up the different types of households that are around those stores. And then we have our other data sets that beyond the household, when someone's out in the wild, what are they doing, and how can we infer audiences from other data sets. Probably the most interesting application that we have created is what we're calling place visit rate, where not only are we showing ads out in the wild around stores, we're showing ads in stores, and then we're able to tell the difference between devices that we saw in the wild and showed an ad, and devices that we saw and did not show an ad, and what's the varying rate at which the devices that saw ads and didn't see ads actually end up in the brick and mortar. So that place visit rate is one of our new KPIs, and something that we're quite differentiated in.
And so who are your customers? Who do you sell to?
We sell primarily to advertising agencies.
To the agencies, yeah.
And the reason for that is we're a small team. We've been up and running for 2.5, almost 3 years. Just started selling in the marketplace on a direct basis. We also have a reseller channel, so people like weather.com are out there having us power their audience platform. So the salespeople from weather.com go out there and sell the weather audience network, of which we're powering that.
And it's a cloud-based solution, I presume. There's no software to load or anything like that,
It is
right?
actually both. For what we're doing, it's all cloud-based. When we sell it direct, on the reseller model, depending on the company and their infrastructure, we do have some appliances distributed out there. We much prefer cloud because it allows us to iterate much more quickly, and everybody has the latest on a real-time basis, and we don't have to get them to update their software.
Yeah, so we take this part of it a little bit for granted, but the location element of these new capabilities is quite powerful. If you listen to, if you put any credibility with Mark Benioff and Salesforce, which a lot of people do, his current messaging is talking about the customer company, and there's like 4 or 5 things that go into it. Social, mobile, and location is one of the key elements, and the other one is touch. So he's added location and touch. He's been talking about mobile and social for a little while, but this location capability, I think we're just seeing the beginning of it. And I remember a long time ago, I used to be an aerospace engineer, and I remember we were using GPS, of course, for helping design missiles for targeting, and everybody was so worried about you can't let GPS get in the hands of normal people because all these bad things will happen. The bad guys will get it, but of course we're seeing much different situation here with location.
Google was mentioned earlier. We like to say that we think that location is showing as much intent as search, and it's the new way to show intent.
Yeah, and I think the other point to this is that the younger generation of people, users, consumers, customers, are much more open to information, whether it's social, their location, just transparency. Whereas sort of the generationally, I think we're going to see much more willingness for people to allow their situation, their location, whatever it is, to be used, whether it's advertising or selling or anything else. So this, again, we're at the very beginning of this, and yours is a great example of taking advantage of that. So next, we have Aster Software, and so we have Shankar Krishnamoorthy, who's the CEO. So Shankar, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Am I audible? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and it's very nice talking to potential customers and partners, and thanks to SIIA. And again, my name is Shankar Krishnamoorthy, and I am the CEO of Aster Software. Texelo is our flagship product, and Texelo is a cloud-ready multi-tenant application development framework. And we basically work with ISVs and enterprises in terms of helping them to build a new software as a service product or migrate their on-premise product to a SaaS business model in a quick and faster manner. And that's the value proposition that we bring. And some of our customers are like Envision, Secova, Sutherland, Dapleworks, Synergita, then Staffion, like that. So we already have about a dozen customers. And we have helped them, several of them are already live on the cloud and then in the SaaS model, and we are very happy in terms of what they have achieved using our framework. And in terms of recognition, we are recognized as a Gartner Cool Vendor, and then one of the top 10 emerging companies in India on the product side, and then here in SIIA, we are one of the CODI finalists. Thank you for all the recognition and support from our customers. And let me just give a brief overview in terms of what problem we solve. So when we look at building a software as a service product, the engineering complexity is the biggest challenge that ISVs face. On a software as a service product model, so you need to be really cautious and careful about the data security, configurability, scalability, and if you have workflow, it should be configurable at each tenant level, and then again it should be really secured. And then you may want to bring in the data privileges at the field level for each of the tenant and then each of the user within the tenant. When you want to bring in all these things together, you really need a very strong engineering foundation. And building this engineering foundation is really challenging, and you are talking about building at least $500,000 in terms of building the framework, and then also it is going to require significant amount of time, and then it requires experience and expertise. And a lot of ISVs, they cannot afford that, and then they really want to take their product to the market very quickly. And this is where we come in. We provide all the SaaS engineering layer and then SaaS operationalization like tenant onboarding, billing, metering, product analytics, everything in a kind of like ready to use API and web services format. So that allows the ISVs just to focus on building their business functionality rather than worrying about the engineering complexities underneath. And that way it helps them to focus on their business, and then it brings them a lot of savings, at least in the range of 30 to 50% of the savings in time to market, and then also it saves a lot of budget on their product development initiative. Then it also kind of like brings them freedom and flexibility because like we kind of like provide the completely service oriented architecture. So even if they want to kind of use half of the services from us and then remaining if they want to use somebody else, they can use it. And then ours is a kind of like cloud neutral, we are a cloud neutral player. The application developed using Cello can be deployed on Amazon or Azure or Rackspace or your own private cloud. So you have the complete flexibility and the freedom in terms of where you want to deploy your product and then go live. And in terms of, that's the value proposition that we bring to the table. And in terms of our customers, we work with ISVs, large enterprises, BPOs for building their applications. Well, initially when we started, we felt SaaS is going to be a key thing for ISVs, but increasingly like we are seeing the trend on enterprises as well, because like a lot of enterprises are trying to bring in the multi-tenancy concepts. One of our customer, Sutherland, they have several applications within their organization, close to about like 100+ applications, and some of the applications are replicated for several of their customers. Their major challenge is application maintenance. So they are trying to bring in the multi-tenancy concepts into their organization and then trying to see how they can unify the applications, and then how do they reduce the overall maintenance of the applications. So that's where like we work very closely with them and then see how they can achieve their objective. So those are all some of the
That's
things.
awesome. So I have one question for you, and that is, so you mentioned multi-tenant, and that's often used as a differentiator between sort of traditional hosted models and true SaaS. And so describe what the differences are and how your product, it seems fairly complex to get from, get to true multi-tenancy. So maybe talk about the multi-tenancy aspect of your product.
Okay, so like when we talk about multi-tenancy, actually like it's not just differentiating the tenant, different tenants through tenant ID. There is a lot more into it.
Right.
Say, for example, if you look at workflow needs to be configurable for different customers. Well, there may be a process, say for example, let's say an employee appraisal process. So each organization may have its own workflow and it needs to be configured. So that is going to vary from one customer to another customer to another customer. So you need to actually you need to identify the tenant, as well as like you need to make sure that the workflow differs from one tenant to another tenant according to what they want actually. So same way if you look at data model extension, while I may be just describing an employee in one organization, when I go into a hospital, I may be referring the patient in a different way. So there you may have to extend the data model according to what your hospital or what your education institute will need. So here you need to provide the ability to extend, at the same time have the multi-tenancy in place.
Yeah.
So we actually weave in the, well, on an individual basis, custom fields or like workflow, they are all very known concept. But when you bring in the multi-tenancy together and then weave them in, that's when the entire complexity comes in.
Yeah.
Plus, you may have to scale out when you go onto the cloud and then you want to scale up. So it should be really possible. And we try to bring in all these things and then view all these factors through a multi-tenancy.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I would say.
Yeah, it's a big difference. We see a lot of offerings that they called SaaS, but the reality is they're hosted, and it's true SaaS, and has a number of features around multi-tenancy, upgradability, scalability, and just multiple releases that just cleans up a lot of the mess that we had with traditional on-premise software, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you will sell to the end user companies, CIOs, or you'll sell through a rack space?
Right now we are going directly to the end user companies.
Yeah, okay.
So we sell it to the ISVs. Typically we go to CIOs or CTOs for this. But we really want, once we prove some more with respect to, after adding some more customers, I think then we will go to Rackspace or Amazon.
Because they could sell it as an offering.
Yes, exactly.
And they don't know how to do this, but they could sell it and it would make them more powerful in the market,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah,
Right.
cool.
They're definitely a very good potential partner for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Okay, good.
Thank you.
So now Ryan Fuller here, CEO of Volumetrics. Another really interesting application of cloud that's I'm talking about social. So Ryan, take it away.
Yeah, sure. Ryan Fuller, CEO and co-founder of Volumetrics. Appreciate you having us here. What we do is social enterprise intelligence. Talk you through what we mean. We effectively help companies merge this gap between their strategy and their actual execution, or said on this slide, the difference between design and reality. When you think about a large organization, there's thousands of hours and millions of dollars and tons of effort that goes into designing the right org structure, designing the right cross-functional teams, designing which markets should we enter, when should we do it, what's the 5-year plan. There's all kinds of things that have a lot of intention behind them. However, no matter what it is you're trying to accomplish, the reality is you've got thousands or tens of thousands of human beings that need to work together effectively to accomplish those things. And every one of those people has a slightly different version of what's important and what their priorities should be. And so it kind of ends up as a mess. And there's really no way to see that as it's happening until most of the time you see some financial indicators pop out 3 or 6 months after whatever the people did occurred. So what we do is we merge that gap. So we take data from tools that are just used every day, all day by knowledge workers, predominantly email, calendar, and instant message. We pull that out, we anonymize it, we make sure there's privacy is handled well, we secure it, we merge it up against some of the structured org chart data. Effectively, we end up with what are people spending time on and who are they spending time with and how much. When you have those key ingredients across the entire organization, you can suddenly ask and answer a whole bunch of business questions that you couldn't even begin to address before without tons of interviews and surveys and all kinds of stuff. So we then put together, we have a web-based application that is a series of dashboards and new KPIs to help people manage their business more effectively. Number of use cases across lots of functions, pretty much applicable to anywhere where there's a lot of knowledge workers. Some down the left side of this, there's a few of them listed. This example here that we showed is one just to call out on supplier engagement management. Just delivered this recently to a very large technology company here in the Bay Area. They're a hardware company, a lot of suppliers that they're buying components from. Well, step one, the bar chart in the middle is literally how much time is being spent by your employees with each one of your key suppliers. R&D people, ops people, marketing people. The answer for these guys and for many people is you literally have hundreds of employees engaging with these partners on a regular basis. And it tallies up to tens of thousands of hours of time. It's a huge investment. And you had no idea what those numbers were. And it almost certainly, one, doesn't match what you would have wanted it to look like if you were thinking about which suppliers do I want to have a strong relationship with. And two, there's real cost associated with this. If it's 10,000 hours, that's 5 FTEs that are basically doing nothing but talking to vendors, right, or a specific vendor. So we've got people that are using this to better, dashboard and manage on a monthly basis to better prioritize where the time goes and get a handle on it in a vendor management situation. We've also got people in the beginning phases of starting to try to do chargebacks to some of the vendors or more effectively manage the vendors to keep costs down. You can apply the same concept to customers, to partners, to, if I'm an IT organization, to internal customers across the business, all kinds of different things.
Wow, very interesting. So I would imagine that you're just now scratching the surface on the use cases. I mean,
we have too many use cases.
Yeah, it's sort of like, where do you go first? Like, suppliers and whatnot. I can just imagine there's an infinite number of places. But what about like event-based observations? So you launch a product and you kind of see what happens with all the communications and whatnot. You probably have looked at that as well.
So yeah, launch a product. Product development process. There's phase gates. There's a fairly standard process. You get evaluated each phase gate. What are the collaboration patterns in the months leading up to each phase gate, and what correlates with success and failure?
What about the other places where people spend time, whether it's on external like Facebook or some of these other social networks?
So one of the things that makes our business really scalable and our implementation take only a day is our primary focus on email and calendar.
You got to make it harder so we can get involved. One day you don't need a consultant. Sorry.
No, well, hey, no. I mean, consulting is a big channel for us, and we're partnering with management consultants. You can sell a ton of services on top of this. Like, here's what's wrong with your organization.
There's no way they can do this by themselves. I'm sure they're going to need a consultant.
Right.
Very, very interesting. Awesome. So once again, an application of cloud and new capabilities and new concepts around social to a whole new business problem. So good job. So first broad question, and no, I don't have any slides. So Tony, I'm going to start with you. This is around customers, but I want to move this around as well. And so the question is, what's happening with customer behavior, buying behavior? So 10 years ago, there were certain priorities around making decisions to buy software and buy new products, but with what's happened with cloud, social, mobile, and all this innovation, all this, customers are thinking differently. There's a lot of concerns about privacy and data and risk and whatnot, and with the economy. But the question is, customer behavior, buying patterns. What are the keys to getting customers to make decisions to buy your products, whether it's making decisions on a small company or a new capability? I want to talk about sort of customer behavior, and if you could maybe start.
I'd say that the biggest difference, at least in what we do, and we're not selling cloud services, we're selling a service, a product that happens to use it. I would say that the biggest change has been the amount of education and the sheer amount of time it takes for our customers to understand where we fit into their existing models and how they slot us.
Right.
Because I've had the good fortune of being the first sales guy in at YouTube when nobody understood what video advertising was. Wow. First sales guy in at AdMob when nobody understood what a mobile ad was. And now first person here where we're taking location and turning that into audiences. And it just takes a certain amount of time and energy to educate people and get them to flip the switch in their mind.
Right.
One of the examples I'm using today is we can put people in grocery store. Or we can reach devices for a CPG and reach in grocery store. We can reach people on lot when they're making a car buying decision. And it's taking quite a bit of time for CPG and or even auto to decide, well, is this tier 1 national advertising or is this local advertising? If it's CPG, I don't necessarily want to have a KPI today to drive in store. So do I even buy this? And so it's educating people that all of advertising has always used a proxy for who's my audience and how can I influence them to buy something. They just don't have a bucket for us today.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So Ray, you and Shankar, you guys sell to sort of the IT big enterprises. Maybe talk about buying behaviors, customer behaviors, and maybe Ray, you can start.
It's interesting because it's very similar to Tony's experience.
Yeah.
On the one hand, being in this industry, innovation is proliferating so quickly.
Right.
And the next generation of the next thing and the next newest thing is happening so quickly. And the cost to develop software to do that with tools like what Shankar is offering or just contemporary web service types of tools is happening so fast that there's lots of options for prospects to sort through and evaluate. On the other hand, particularly with, in our case, for example, a complex IT environment, the time it takes for buyers to understand and evaluate and go through the process in many regards is still very traditional. In our case, a lot of our clients would like to see a proof of concept and understand it and see it to believe it and these types of things. And so it has struck me, having been at this event pretty regularly the last 5 or more years, how fast the innovation's happening, but in some ways, how slow it's taking for us to really build the enormous market potential and the enormous companies that are going to be coming out of all these opportunities.
Yeah, they're still very risk averse. Adoption, getting people to make decisions and spend money and take risks. That's my business as well. And it's tricky sometimes. Yes.
The beautiful thing is when you find the clients or the prospects who share your vision or see the world the way you do, they will love you and embrace you and help you build your company and your technology and be a part of your mission. And so that's part of the key, is being at places where you will meet people who share your vision, who have the challenge and are living it day to day, and who value it so much.
Who get it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shankar, what about your experience around, customers, buying patterns, decision making?
So in our case, it's a kind of a little bit towards traditional approach. In the sense, like our customers, especially CTOs, architects, what they really look at is like, well, they all move towards SaaS, but at the end of the day, they really take care of the complete engineering. So they really look for flexibility, freedom, and control. And then there's generally like kind of like who takes care of the IP, and then where does the IP rely on, whether the IP is at the engineering layer or at the business layer, business functionality side. So generally, like when we start talking to our customers, like we kind of like focus more on what value we bring and then how it can help them to progress through. But generally, we kind of like get into the discussion of the whether will I have the flexibility to go beyond what Cello offers, or will I be able to change some of the way how Cello works, or like can I have that freedom? That's the kind of general questions we get into, but like the moment we start doing the pilot and all, they get a lot of confidence. And then once they kind of decide, it's very easy for them to use, because end of the day, developers are our end users, and then they are all accustomed to using services, web services. So usage is very easy. Just getting them to buy into the concept is the place where we work through.
Right. On the enterprise side, just to stay on this topic real quick, Are you seeing CIOs and IT professionals sort of progressing and adopting cloud and SaaS and sort of embracing that, or do you still see hesitation and concerns about security and kind of all the risks? What's your experiences there?
Security has not been the biggest issue for us lately. It was a number of years ago.
Yep.
But what I'm seeing is it's almost like a binary or a splitting of the client base. On the one hand, there are folks who are getting evangelistic about this is the future. We've got to figure this out. On the other hand, some of us in the industry call these folks affectionately server huggers. These are people who are so used to running the infrastructure and keeping the lights on, they're having a hard time letting go and letting the tools do what they do. And for us, it's fascinating because with every new wave of technology and innovation comes a whole new set of problems and challenges that you need to overcome to achieve the value from them. And cloud is no different. A lot of our clients, the CIOs, bemoan how much of their budget is allocated to just keeping servers up and cloud services up, and Salesforce.com is down. Why is that? Our people can't sell. They look to the IT group to get on their SaaS vendor to get on top of that. So there's new issues that need to be addressed in new ways. Many of these companies address them. And there are, in our experience, folks who are really running, leading, driving that. And there's folks who are just so ingrained in the old mindset.
Yeah, because a lot of people their jobs, their careers have been made on, managing infrastructure, managing client server apps, managing the old world, and so we definitely see that. And a lot of times the CIO has a visionary, but then the underlings are not so much. So there's a different. Anyway, so that those good subtleties. So our two friends at the ends here sell not so much to the CIO and that side. Talk about customer buying behavior and adoption and decision making from because you guys are more on the consumer, marketing, sales, side of the businesses.
Yeah. So I mean, I actually thought it was interesting while Ryan was talking. We have a very similar model, which is that, right, in the retail world, they spend 95% of their time planning promotions and how they're going to execute, no time measuring, right? So I just wanted to highlight that. But I think ultimately, of course, that makes the buyer somebody in the sales and marketing group. What will happen, though, inevitably along the way is when IT will get involved. And it's just a question on where in the process they're going to get involved and how you're going to integrate with them. So what we found, after kind of getting some black eyes and fat lips along the way, is that you really need to be proactive in getting the IT lead in the discussions as early as possible. And there's probably 5 or 6 major things that they're going to be concerned about when their field team or anyone in their marketing group is adopting a new technology, right? There's going to be security issues, there's going to be stability stuff, a host of things that we can proactively provide to them. So what we found is that no matter what, you're going to have somebody kind of on the inline side championing it and ultimately cutting the check from their budget. But IT has to be involved in that process and give the stamp of approval to say, yes, we feel comfortable moving forward, and ultimately probably supporting the product in one way or another.
Yeah, I think well said. I mean, I think we have perhaps some unique challenges as, we walk in and say, yeah, we'd like your administrative email password, and then we'd like to pull all that out and stick it in the cloud. How's that sound?
And all your IMs?
Yeah.
Because, IM is, people perceive IM to be very secure and private, and of course it's not, corporate isn't, but people do view that as being a little bit like a text message,
So we have to have IT involved to be able to get access to the data that we need. We have to go through legal, who is worried that there's actually privacy law in different parts of the world that is somewhat applicable to the kind of stuff that we do. And they've not thought about this, so they have to worry about it. And then HR has to think about it from a cultural perspective and how does this really work. So we kind of have a few gatekeepers. And so we actually do, IT being one of the most important ones, so we actually try to bring them in very early, if not sell directly to them to begin with, because our solution is effective for IT as well as other functions. So we start there.
Yeah, there's a lot of roadblocks, I would imagine, in all in all your businesses, and just getting over those roadblocks and knowing them up front, and you can address them and whatnot. There's perceived and real challenges, I'm sure. Good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to shift gears here a little bit and ask a different set of questions around sort of the venture capital and the angel funding and just how do you start a company? I mean, you know, it's hard, and there's a lot of your sort of counterparts out here and might learn from some of your experiences. So from your perspectives, what are the things that investors are looking for, whether it's venture capital or angel or friends or whatever, to sort of allow them to make decisions to invest and to move forward? And Ryan, you've got actually quite a bit of legitimate like venture capital, so hence you're probably a little more stressed out than the rest. But I don't, because that comes with a lot of strings, I'm sure, right? So what's been your experience there with the VC side of things?
Well,
don't mean to put you on.
Yeah, no,
straight.
I mean, you know, what do they want? They want no risk and huge return really quick.
Immediately,
That's what
right,
they want.
right.
So
That's it, right?
yeah, it's pretty simple
Yeah.
to provide that. But no, I mean, I think that's a whole, you know, there could be a whole conference on that for a week. I think you got to find they're human beings, and you got to find somebody that shares a vision and can see a path to something big and new and innovative.
Yeah.
And you got to tell the story really effectively, and you got to have the sort of proof to back up that you're headed on that path.
Yeah. Any other perspectives there?
So we've raised $12.5 million of venture funding.
Oh, there you go. Okay, you got it.
And I would share two things in this regard. One is, if you're going to get funding, chances are there will be at least one and probably a couple of investors who are going to be interested. And what I have found, having run and worked at a number of venture-backed companies, is that, you know, the money is the same, but the role of the VC is different. And unfortunately, I've worked at a couple of companies where it's not been as constructive as it can be, and there are board politics and different perspectives that can come to bear, in particular when the going gets tough. And it's going to get tough. If you're doing something truly new and innovative, you're going to have to deal with these hurdles and overcoming all these barriers and gatekeepers. The investors we have now are unbelievable. They're opening up all sorts of new doors, partners, customers, driving operational insights based on the 50 or 500 companies they funded before. So I'd encourage you to look for someone who shares that vision and really is as excited about what you're doing as you are. The second thing, which I learned from a very talented fundraiser and CEO, is if you're an entrepreneur and you're going out on a roadshow raising money, it's a very common mistake that you can avoid, and a great analogy that works for me at least, that you should think about. Raising money for your company is kind of like selling a house. For those of you who have either sold a house or bought a house, it's not uncommon to have an open house, have a lot of people come through, and a lot of people leave. Yeah. And it's very common for someone to look at the kitchen and have some picayune issue with the kitchen, or the bedroom, or the interior, or the paint. You cannot convince them that, well, we can change this, or you can change this, or if only. What you need to do is take the no. Don't respond to the VC who's got some issue about your channel model or the HR department or will IT really support this. Move on, because they're not the right buyer. And more commonly, the buyer, and all you need is one buyer for your house. And essentially, same thing with venture investing. All you need is one or maybe two each round. They'll know within about 5 minutes. They walk into your house and they know that's the house for them. It's an emotional thing. And it's the same thing with the right investor for a VC company. They're going to be living in your company for 5, 10 years until there's an exit, and sometimes even after that. And so that's a piece of advice that a serial entrepreneur who's raised, I don't know, probably $100 million now has shared with me. And I see it consistently work over and over and over again.
Yeah, awesome. We have time for one or two more comments, and then we got to wrap up. I realize we're going
I'd just
over
quickly
time
say
here.
that this is my 7th startup, 3rd time that I'm actually working directly with the board. So in the 3 that I've done, they're all looking for what does the big opportunity look like? Is this thing scalable, and can you win in it? Do you have something that's disruptive that they feel confident that if and they all have egos, they throw the right people at it, they help you, that they can get you, a big exit for yourself and for them.
I wish we could keep going, but we are out of time. I would say that for any of you who are trying to start a company, you could actually approach these 5 folks and get a lot of good advice. That was great. That was actually very good commentary there, especially at the end. So let's get a round of applause for the candidates, right?